Hi there, welcome to today's session. Alright, so as usual, we'll get started. And before we begin, just a quick disclaimer: everything that we're doing over here are solely based on educational purposes, and of course, they do not directly translate to any sort of a financial advice. Okay. So with that said, let's jump into the markets. I'll highlight some of the key opportunities and outlook for you. Hopefully, give you guys some insights into how you can prepare for the week. Okay. So let's get started with the dollar index. So the dollar index as of now, okay, we are anticipating a potential reversal. With price testing the bottom of the channel, and we are kind of starting to see a little bit of a reaction of that. Okay, so ideally, of course, we'd like to see a little bit more of an impulsive push higher. We did break above that swing high. However, we'd like to see a little bit more commitment for the market before really looking for the buy trade setup, right? But overall, I think, if I zoom out a little bit, we are seeing the dollar index here potentially completing that fifth wave, and we might see, upside from here on. Okay, so do look out for the opportunity moving forward, right? And of course, if you go over to the euro, that would be the opposite direction overall. We do have the fifth wave here. Okay, again, kind of looking at that move back down. Okay, ideally, again, we would like to see price make an impulsive break below this structure, right? Which is around 1.17. Okay, so if we can get that impulsive break, that would open up the opportunity to look for sell trade. Okay, so again, huge downside opportunity. You definitely would want to have that in mind as you go forward for the week, right? So if you can get that impulsive break, you want to look out for the opportunity. Okay, so next up is the pound dollar. Pound dollar here, we're looking at the short-term sell. Initially, we're looking at the possibility of another minor pullback, higher than that we get a sell. But looking at how price is currently moving, likely we might not get that opportunity to jump in, right? With the 618 zone. But overall, we're kind of expecting this to do a pullback, right? Now, what you want to be careful in terms of GBP over here is that this pullback may just simply be something like this towards the 618 area, and there's a good possibility the pound dollar can actually move higher, right? If price is gonna be like reversing, okay, I mean, really coming back down deeper, we'll need to definitely see price take out this low, right, before we can really say that, all right, the upside is completed and we'll see downside, right? Because overall right now, price is still respecting this low, and we are looking at a higher high, higher low at this moment, right? So this can be simply just a pullback, and then for potential upside. Okay, so the short-term plan was initially to wait for this to pull up a little bit, and then we can look for a short-term sell. Then around the zone, we'll flip it back up to look for the buy. But since we are not getting the opportunity to do a short-term sell, my focus right now is then going to be more towards for price to reach to the key area here at 1.3530, and then potentially look for the buy instead. Okay, so as price kind of like come towards the key area, you want to pay attention and see if you can get any sort of a buy trade opportunity to the upside. Okay. cool. Okay, yeah, so that's on the pound dollar. Okay, then we have the Aussie. Aussie for now, we are looking at the pullback, right, towards the 618, okay. However, this one here, I don't really have a setup to get involved yet, really because, you know, I would love to see some sort of a corrective pullback before committing, right? Because if we are technically seeing a V shape here, you just want to be very, very careful, which means that, you know, this can actually make another pushback up to form maybe a more complex structure, and sort of, right? So again, you want to be patient at times, but generally right now we are expecting the pullback towards 618, right? It's sort of a deeper pullback to develop on Aussie dollar, to give us that impulse reaction and then upside. Okay, we'll see how it goes from here on, but do keep an eye on the potential opportunity going forward here for Aussie. Okay, dollar Canadian is a little bit clear in terms of the focus, right? So dollar Canadian, the focus over here is gonna be expecting the three-wave development. All right, as a channel over here, you can see we did get a nice little reaction, right? And then we, of course, on the lower time frame, managed to clear off some of the structure here as well. So if you can get a pullback for the week, right, then we can look for opportunity to get involved in the upside. Okay, so if you look at the hourly chart, right, there is actually the setup here where you can see the lows has been taken out, right, potential liquidity sweeps. Of course, the break of structure is here as well. We do have this break of structure here happening too. Okay, so if you want, you know, you can look at that as a break of structure, and then this would be a liquidity sweep. I mean, you know, whichever way you look at, it's still basically quite clear. We do have this other block kind of confluence quite nicely with the fit level. So if you can get a pullback this week towards our key area at 1.36, that would present the buy trade setup, right? Okay, something like this. So very, very quick, if you're looking at this, you know, on the lower time frame, you can see with that target at where the swing high is, gives you a very, very decent risk to reward. However, if you want to go for more, you can even look at, you know, where the previous high is at 1.3790, or 1.38, right? If you kind of push that, your target to 1.38, okay, you can see the risk reward extends towards 4.6, right, which is even better. So this is a very good opportunity for the week itself. Definitely something you want to keep an eye on moving forward, right, in terms of the dollar Canadian. Okay. Then we have the dollar yen. Okay. Dollar yen is currently testing the key area around the 618. We're kind of expecting this to pull back, you know, to the downside, but I'm not committing to any sell yet because we really need that confirmation, you know, on the lower time frame as well, for price to actually reject off the 618K. If you don't get a nice little rejection, then obviously there's no sell trade. Okay. Yeah. So let's see how this rolls for the week. I don't think you want to pay too much attention until something more, I would say, solid being developed over here on the dollar yen. Yeah, so that's not something that I'll put too much emphasis on. Okay. Then we have gold. So gold over here, definitely I'm interested more in the upside. I think overall structure is quite clear. We're looking at the channel, right? We have this nice little pullback, very nice little reaction. Okay, mini impulsive push here as well on the lower time frame. Currently developing very, very correctively. So definitely the bias is upside, right? And upside potential is huge, right? You can see even if the target here is huge, we can expect it to even extend higher. If you go down to the lower time frame, right, there is actually the setup that is in place as well. Really depends on the time frame you're looking at as well. Because if you go down to even the 15-minute, okay, there is that opportunity as well, depending again on how aggressive you are. Whether you are looking at the part where this tree wave is completed, okay, or you're looking at the part where this is still in development, right? And then that will be that bigger three-wave structure. Okay. Yeah, so depending on how we are looking at it, again, there's no certainty in the markets, right? But the idea here is if we are expecting another move down, then we are basing off the entry zone around 3285. If you're looking at a three wave in yellow and orange, right, the blue XY being completed, then that will be on a 15-minute time frame where you can then look out for opportunities. If this comes down, that's where you're gonna look to buy, right? We won't know for certain what is going to happen, right? Obviously, so the question is back to are you willing to take that risk? In expecting this is the completion of the down move, and then we're looking for upside, right? In the end, I think it's still worth considering taking a trade here, right? Expecting this form. Because if let's say we don't really get a nice move back up, right? Let's just say we get a nice little, just a small little reaction, and then market starts to come back down. We can always shift our stops to break even and manage the trade accordingly, right? So I personally feel that the 15-minute is something we can look into, because if this doesn't, let's just say this is the bottom, this is the end of the correction, then this would just pull back and then start taking off, right? It will probably not come back here. You probably do not want to miss on that, right? Because again, if you look at all the time frames alignment from 15-minute to 1 hour to the 4-hour time frame, the upside is huge. Okay, so is again something that you want to consider, is the risk worth taking, right? In my perspective, definitely, right? So the focus here, gold, definitely something you want to keep an eye on. Okay, silver. Silver here, we're expecting the pullback. Okay, we're expecting a pullback to the downside. However, I don't see any setup that is establishing right now. You don't want to jump into the trade just because of the expectation, right? You want to need alignment with the setup as well, right? So this one here, probably just leave it as it is. Crude oil. Okay, crude oil is something that you also don't want to touch. I think it's just best to leave it as it is. Okay, and wait for more confirmation before kind of committing to anything. Okay. Then next up we have S&P, right? So S&P over here, we're definitely looking for more upside. However, you don't want to jump in just like that. You want to wait for a decent pullback, okay, before kind of committing to the buy trade, right? Again, the logic is you don't want to buy at the top. You want to be buying after a pullback, right? So if this is going to start doing its pullback, you can do a fib here to give us some expectation. Okay, the 50 and 618 will probably be where you want to look out for in terms of the pullback, right? So probably you just want to be patient a little bit on this. Yeah, you need to give it a little bit of time before really looking for the buy trade opportunity, right? So that's gonna be on the pound yen side of things. Then we have pound yen. Okay. Yeah, so then we have the pound yen. So pound yen over here, we are expecting some simple three-way move to the upside. Okay, so this one, again, you want to wait for that decent pullback, right? If you don't get that pullback, there's really no trade. Very, very similar to the dollar yen. If this just keeps pushing to the upside, then there's really nothing, right? But of course, if we start to see some decent pullback here, definitely the opportunity to look for the buy trade to the upside. Okay, yeah, so we'll see how it goes. Something to have it in your watch list, but I think not so soon, right? Odd yen pushing up very, very strong right now. Okay, so I think I would just suggest just to stay patient for now, right? this here would be observing how price is going to react off that high. Okay, but again, if I zoom out, it's just not a clear structure. Okay, I wouldn't really spend too much time on this, right? We'll just leave it as it is. Okay. Next up, the pound Australia. Okay, coming back down very impulsive again. Whenever we see V shapes forming like that, my suggestion is just be patient and stay out of the market, right? So you can see how the market has developed, coming down very impulsive, going up very impulsive, coming down very impulsive. You just want to avoid it. Okay, so stay out of it. Lastly, here we have BTC, right? So Bitcoin here, I'm expecting a pullback, slightly lower. Okay, potentially we might even see price actually kind of test back this low before the push out, right? So Bitcoin here, I'm bullish, but I would love to see price really come back towards this zone before really committing to it, right? Can it just form something like this and then start going, you know, like somewhere here? Yes, but since we are looking at the part where we have this, you know, a little bit of a crawlish formation, I'm just not comfortable expecting that this is all the correction, right? I'll be more comfortable to see in such a way where this is the part and then this is something that looks like this, right? I mean, this looks a little bit more complete as compared to like just the structure itself. Okay. So again, BTC probably not something you want to focus too much for the week, but really those that I've highlighted, I think those are the ones that you want to pay a little bit more attention, right? Which is definitely the dollar Canadian. Gold for sure, right? That's something that I think it's one of the key ones to really look into for the week. Yeah, maybe pound yen moving forward if it can give us that pullback. Yeah, but other than that, those are the ones that I would really emphasize and kind of like focus on, right? Yeah. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. Okay, yeah. Good. So I hope that's clear. I mean, the focus very much would be gold, right? Okay, let me clean this up a little bit. We'll look at this as a new break of structure over here. Okay, if I were to take a measurement, of course, if price continue to develop, we'll need to update the fits accordingly if required. But right now you can see a very nice little confluence where we have the fib here as well as the failure gap, right? So again, if the market can pull back nicely, that would be a decent buy trade opportunity. Okay, this one quite decent, right? Yes, so this one definitely you want to add it into your watch list. I think tomorrow if we can continue to get a pullback, that would be a nice little trade. Good. Yeah. On the lower time frame, actually, euro dollar today on the 15-minute has a nice little trade as well. You can see the break of structure and then the pullback, right? Kind of missed this. I wasn't like in front of the market today on the euro. Okay, this was kind of like in the afternoon London market. Very nice little entry opportunity. If you manage to catch it, fantastic, right? If not, then you want to focus on gold here. I think again, you know, as I mentioned, gold we have the 15 minutes opportunity here lining up. Okay, we also have the hourly. Okay, as I mentioned, you know, it really depends on your style, how aggressive you're into that as well, right? But I think for me, I would be looking at this opportunity and see how to manage that trade, right? If this bounce up is just corrective in nature, then you want to shift stops to break even and just see how it goes, remove your risk anyway. But if let's say the market were to come down and then tag you in and give you a very nice little impulsive push, this might take off, right? I mean, if this takes off, the upside can be really huge. Okay. Yeah, so I'm actually very interested to pay attention to this, right? And the opportunity here in the 15-minute would present a nice little opportunity to start looking into. Okay, so from the 15-minute going back to the hourly, and then all the way to the 4 hour, yeah, gold is definitely the focus, right? So let me give you a final potential target you can look out for if you're into gold. Okay, this would potentially extend all the way to 3570, which is again its all-time high. Yeah, so if you just extend this right to like 357, okay, the risk reward is just significantly huge, right? You can see here, if you can get involved in the shorter time frame, potentially kind of trail your profits. Obviously we won't have like one trade all the way up, okay, but you can take partials and things like that. So the focus for this week definitely is going to be on gold. Okay, that's for sure. Okay, yeah, all right, so that's what I have for this week update. Hopefully give you guys, again, as I mentioned, some insights to prep up for the week. Okay, so yep, that's all from me.